Hi there. Today I'm going to talk to you about a concept, an idea that as a former scientist and now teacher has changed the way I approach my growth as a teacher. And that is the Action Research Project or Action Research. Um, if you're a scientist or were a scientist before you became a teacher, by the way, this is aimed at all teachers, not just science teachers. Every teacher should be doing this. If you were a scientist ever, this is not hard science, and please don't expect it to be. It's not the idea of the Action Research. That was the hardest thing for me to get my head around, is that what I was doing was not science research. It was professional research on how to get better at what I'm doing. So the learning goals here is to introduce the terminology and the basics of action research. We'll say AR after this, but that's what it means. And its purpose. Its purpose for you as a professional. You don't have to be a teacher. This is the sort of thing which pretty much any practitioner in a job can do and should be doing. And the success criteria at the end of this, you should be able to briefly outline a plan for an action research project. And if you have any questions about that at the end, put them in the comments. But I'll mention that before I sign off. So what is action research? Action research, basically, it's a method of investigating our practices as professionals. It's scientific in nature, and that's important you understand that, but it is less rigorous, and it is not a large-scale research project. It is focused on improving you as an individual, your practice, and then the team and the people around you as well. But it's not, as an educator, you know this, and other professions as well, the large bodies of research don't always apply to your situation. It's weird, and it's because you can't control for everything. So something that works in one school or one professional setting might not work in another. Action research is not designed to be generalizable to everyone. That comes from meta-analysis. Meta-analysis, like the work that John Hattie does in education and so forth, that is when you collect all of the information and you're able to, because you've got a very large sample size, by doing hundreds of thousands, looking at hundreds of thousands, you're able to break that down into a more generalizable set of conclusions. But action research isn't necessarily going to give you that. So it allows us to test our hunches, or that horrible phrase that you will hear all the time in staff rooms, which is, we've always done it this way. Why don't we change it? Because we've always done it this way. It allows you to compare them. It allows you to test them. We all have those things. Everyone has that idea that is something that works. Except maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's your own biases shining through. Action research allows us to test these, and allows us to test it in a critical, reflective way. And that means it can be confronting at times. But it allows us to focus on the things that we're doing anyway. So, yes, it is more work. People who tell you it's not any extra work are lying to you. Well, not lying, they're probably just wrong. It will be more work, but you need to start doing as an educational professional. We need to do that work in professional development anyway. It's cyclical in nature. This means one project flows into the next. So when you're done, at the end, you're not done. You start the next thing. And it is a cycle. And it's basically, you have an observation, an idea, and you plan how to investigate it. You then enact that investigation and you observe it. You get your results around here. You reflect upon them. So you come up with a new plan based on that. So what did I learn? How does that change how I'm going to teach? And then I move forward. And you go again. And you go again. And the idea is that you're constantly getting better. We're going to have this diagram on the side here basically for the rest of this slideshow. So what are the components of action research? You need a question, obviously, or a hypothesis if you're sciencey. Question or an idea. We've found an idea or a practice that we use, and we're going to question it. And we're going to question it in an open-ended manner. Then we do something like a literature review, so formal or otherwise, it doesn't really matter, where we basically assess the state of the understanding of, basically, we look at the research. What does it say about our question? Is it a question that's been answered before? Cool. If it has, we'll look at that and we'll still test it, because we know with a lot of professional areas like education and so forth, social work, that your context might be different to other contexts. So you probably should still test the ideas in your own system. Then we design a task, a research plan that we can implement. Basically, we're testing our hypothesis or our question. If we change one aspect of our practice, what happens? Then we have the data. We need to collect data or data. I don't care. This is the information collected, and we then review it and reflect upon it. We outline our correlations, like what we've seen, we do this, what happens, so forth. And then we present it to our peers, either in informal discussions like, hey, Barry, I found this out, or we present. And then the cycle starts again. The presenting part's really important, by the way. That means when you're a scientist, you submit things for peer review. It's not quite peer review, but people will give you feedback on how well you're doing. Like, they'll go, oh, you've missed this thing here, or what about this? And again, confronting, but will make you a better teacher or better professional in whatever field you're in. The question. Questions in action research are open-ended by nature. They're not a simple yes or no questions. What that means is, all right, so we run a flipped classroom. How does the use of videos, lessons, and it's that, where are you? That's the important part. How does that affect the ability of students to retain knowledge who have low literacy levels? So students with low literacy levels are watching a video instead of reading a textbook for homework. How does that help them? This is not the same as, does the use of videos improve blah, blah, blah for students with low levels of literacy? They are different questions. One is a straight yes or no. We use how. The how question is more nuanced. There's more aspects to it, there's more facets, and it acknowledges the fact that we've got a kid with poor literacy, we send him home with a video to watch, that's fine. Send him home with a textbook, might take him a lot longer to read the textbook. That kid might have to go to work to help pay bills at home. When you have an open-ended question like, how does it? You don't just go, does it improve? You also you'll ask questions around it, like, why did this help? Or why did it not help? Could you not access it? That sort of stuff. The data, and this goes into our how as opposed to why, requires triangulation. Because it is an open-ended thing, and it's a non-isolated thing, we can't look at one thing in isolation. We've got to look at it in context of the students' lives or the teachers' lives, etc. We need to triangulate it, which means we need 3 or more sources of data. So standard set is 3, triangulated, that all address the same questions. So unlike hard science, feelings count. Again, sorry psychology, you're not a real science. Sorry, hard science. This means, we'll get to qualitative, but we'll get there in a second. We start off with quantitative data. This means data that are numerical in nature. If your data are test scores, days attendance at school, because obviously that has a huge impact, completion rates, etc., not survey scales though. Survey scales are how do I feel about something, strongly agree, disagree, whatever. That's not quantitative, even though you're going from 1 to 5. That's qualitative. So we can use quantitative data. That's gold. The scientist in me loves that. But we're also going to use qualitative data. We're going to use data that are descriptive. So we can interview, whether we're talking to teachers, students, doesn't matter, or social workers. Surveys, focus groups, diaries, whatever. There are a bunch of other data we can use. And you need a mixture of both. One will not answer, particularly qualitative. Qualitative is better at answering the how than the yes or no. What's the use of this for teachers? Basically, it allows us to critically analyze our professional practice. This is very confronting. I've said that a bunch of times, and it is, but it's worthwhile. I support this. And it gives, we all have to do, we're professionals. We have to do professional development. We don't get to say, I graduated from teacher college in blah, 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 and therefore, that's where the growth in teaching stopped. We don't get to do that. We all have to professionally develop ourselves. So, we want to know how to improve, as opposed to just ticking boxes. And with a lot of accreditation these days, you can go one of two ways. You can just tick off and I've done this too, tick off a bunch of PD to get your hours up and then go bang. Or you can do something that will actually improve the way you teach. And that's action research. Whether you have a formal setup to do it in your workplace, or it's just a concept and a concept that you take to improve your practice yourself. I would recommend this 10 out of 10. It is the only way that I can see myself progressing as a teacher in a way that is structured, critical, and somewhat objective. So yeah, I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, or if you have any ideas for research projects and you want me to have a look, or if there's anything I've got wrong, put them in the comments and I'll get back to you as quick as we can. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you very, very much. And yeah, we'll see you next time.